Now this is a launch title. If you've been watching all the Sega Saturn videos I've posted over the past few weeks, you should know that Sega rushed the North American launch, and as such virtually every title suffered. Look at my Daytona and Virtua Fighter review just as an example to see where Sega went wrong. Now if there's one game though that stood out from the rest of the pack, it's without a doubt Panzer Dragoon. This game really made people interested in the Saturn, turned a lot of heads, and eventually became the de facto go-to series on the Saturn, outside of course, Virtua Fighter 2 and a lot of the shoot-'em-ups. If you're gonna purchase the Saturn today, this is one series you simply have to pick up. Panzer Dragoon is the most heavily requested title I've had to review since I started doing these retro Saturn reviews just a little short time ago. It seems everyone has a special place in their heart for this series, and in particular for this first one because of just how original it was. So, does it pass the test of time, or has it aged poorly in the last 17 years? Wow, 17 years. That's unbelievable to think that it's actually been that long already. Okay, so to start off, we're going to look at the storyline. The localized version is kind of hard to follow because they don't really tell you too many details about who the main character is. You just sort of see a couple of cutscenes here and there, and that's pretty well it. But basically, the fate of the world rests on the wings of a blue dragon, and you just so happen to be flying on his back. Your goal is pretty much to destroy everything in your path, but actually you're trying to stop a black dragon and its rider from entering a special tower. Eventually you want to make your way to this tower and destroy it. Basically everything I just said is based on what I sort of saw while I was playing the game, because I honestly did not remember a single thing about the storyline. And you know what, it doesn't matter. For this type of game, who really cares, right? The gameplay is the most important aspect, and it's aged really well. I mean, the camera is the only thing that you might be a little bit annoyed. But other than that, everything is good to go. Panzer Dragoon is an on-rail shooter where you move up and down, left and right. You don't actually go in and out, and you're always being dragged along. You can move the camera around, like I said. It can move around 360 degrees by using the left and right trigger buttons. In order to fire, you press the A, B, or C button, and you'll see I shoot once in a while a single projectile. That's the rider that does that. Now if you press and hold one of those buttons, you actually can lock on to a couple of enemies, which you'll see me do like 90% of the times, and then the dragon itself shoots out a bunch of lasers. So by using this combination, it's possible to, inflict like loads of damage to all the different enemies you see on the screen. One thing to note though is most projectiles that are coming towards you can't be locked on, so you'll see me once in a while switching between the lock-on mechanic and just regular, regular single attacks. Alright, the game is broken down into 6 different episodes, each ending with a boss fight. Some are actually pretty wild. Most are to do with the black dragon that you're trying to stop, because he changes as the game progresses. So technically there's a 7th chapter, which is actually called The Last Episode, but it's not really an episode, it's just the final boss fight of the game. I've shown you guys footage here comprised of the first 4 chapters of the game, because I didn't really want to spoil too much of the game for anyone who's interested in picking it up. Oh, and before I forget, you can use the 3D control pad if you happen to prefer the analog stick for quote-unquote more precise aiming. But to be perfectly honest, I always prefer the D-pad for this series. I think it's because the analog stick is just a little bit too loose. I find on the controller it's just a little tad too big for me. That just doesn't do it for me. Graphically, the game looks, quite rough, I'm not going to lie. But thanks to the post-apocalyptic setting, I thought the developers, Team Andromeda, did a really good job in sort of, spicing things up. It's not all the same drab, boring locals. You'll see that there's nighttime levels, you fly over water, things like that. I mean, we've come a long way in terms of 3D prowess, but honestly, these environments look pretty decent, even today. You shouldn't have any problems figuring out, where enemies are coming from by looking at the little map that you see on the screen there, where you see the dragon and you see little dots. It's really easy to determine where the enemies are coming from. It's also very easy to see when bullets are coming towards you and what objects you need to avoid. The later stages are especially impressive. You got to remember that being released on the Saturn, this was actually a technical showpiece because the Saturn was not meant to push polygons like this. Panzer Dragoon also sports some fairly nice full motion video and real-time cutscenes every once in a while, but don't expect, Final Fantasy VII amount. It's just, once in a blue moon. But now, that's the graphics, but the audio is where it's at. This is one area that has aged superbly well, and it actually continues to delight fans to this very day. If you're a big audio and music fan like Ahmed is on our site, this is clearly the Saturn game for you. The soundtrack can be a little bit hard to find today, but go on the net and I'm sure you'll find it somewhere. It's truly, truly worth it. See what I mean? The audio is pretty catchy. I mean, this is a boss fight, so I don't expect too much. But go back and rewind the video to the beginning. Rewind. Wow, haven't heard that in quite a while. But yeah, go back to the beginning of the video, and the audio that you hear all the way from when it says Project COE proudly presents. That's all taken directly from this. So that's pretty impressive, and it's really good. The soundtrack was actually orchestrated, and well, at least some of it was, and the songs that weren't were actually done through synthesizers. So it's really original. It's really catchy, and it's surprisingly deep. Panzer Dragoon goes for around $25 to $30 for a mint condition copy on eBay today, and trust me, it's truly worth it. I know I have high nostalgia factor for this game, but anyone that enjoys on-rail shooters truly can't go wrong with this one. You might cringe sometimes at the graphics, and maybe the camera is not 100% for you, but the gameplay holds up surprisingly well, and after a short period of time, I'm telling you, you really will see the true value in this game. This was Sega at their absolute finest, creating games unlike anything else out there on the market that have truly stood the test of time. Thanks for watching the review, and I will be back soon.